Welcome to the game. This is the show where we go play by play analyzing the game of politics. Today, we break down three major issues impacting here things domestically, but also in global affairs. We're going to start with a critical vote that the Senate is going to take on the Obamacare subsidies, but then we're going to look at the Supreme Court as they prepare. They've announced that they will take up the case of birthright citizenship. And lastly, we're going to look at the elections in Honduras, the moment where President Trump, the tweet that echoed before the election and the impact it had. Joining me today to discuss these topics in studio, we have Frank Ali, conservative analyst. Frank, thank you for joining the show.
Thank you, Wadi. It's an honor to be here again.
Yeah, great to have you here in person. And we also have Marco Frietti. He's a Democrat analyst. Marco, a longtime friend here at the show. Great to have you on.
Wally, happy to be back. Happy to be back, both of you.
All right, and let's get started. We're going to look at, again, a critical vote that's going to happen in the Senate. This vote comes a month and a half approximately after a deal was brokered between Senate Republicans and a few, about 8 Senate Democrats, who were saying that in order to vote for the reopening of the government, they wanted a vote around the Obamacare subsidies. The Obamacare subsidies are set to expire right now at the end of December. There is a big debate happening on if this is the right path forward or not. Republicans are saying that these are very COVID-era subsidies. The pandemic is over. Why the usage? They also say that this is not the best way to implement what would be quality, accessible healthcare. They're saying that this is more on the big insurer side. But Democrats have a different point of view. And Marco, I want to start with you in that point. When you think of what Senate Democrats are doing and their messaging, what is your opinion? Why is it important that this vote happens? And why should people vote yes on it?
Well, first, I think it's important for both parties to be on the books on what their position is on these subsidies. I think first the context is yes, these were pandemic era subsidies. They were important during that period. They are still important. But the situation today is pretty clear, I think, for both parties. We are still in an affordability crisis. We are still suffering from increased prices in different segments of the economy. Healthcare is probably the biggest part. So I think it's important. I think this is a shared common position between both parties. We need to find a solution to healthcare pricing and the issues in the affordability and access. But right now, getting rid of those subsidies will affect millions of people. I think the numbers show that 20 million people will see prices increase up to 75%. That will either make their lives even harder, or they will not have access to healthcare, which is an extreme issue for them and for the economy and for the healthcare system, because that at the end also causes issues for hospitals and clinics that have to help them. So that's the reality is there's an issue to solve. But the urgency right now is, do we extend them? I think the key here and the biggest issue for the Republicans, because at the end of the day, they have the majority, is will they extend them and save themselves from the repercussions of not doing it, or cut them and have the economic effects of having, again, 20 million people having the healthcare costs increase, people losing coverage, people having to go to emergency rooms and hospitals not being able to cover those emergency costs. And then the collateral damage of not extending them now also is these healthcare systems in rural areas, again, Republican voting areas, will fall because they will not get the funds that these subsidies are channeling towards them when these people that have these subsidies get. So I think there's the economic healthcare issue that needs to be solved in long term. And I think that's a discussion that needs to be had by both parties, and it cannot be politicized. But the underlying issue, I think, now is what to do when January 1st of 2026, these subsidies end and there's not extended. At the end of the day, I think the American voter knows who's in charge, who controls the White House, who controls the Congress, who controls the Senate. And if these prices increase, it will have a effect on the Republicans in the midterms. I think they're not considering that fully. I think the president is not considering it now. I think we have to highlight the effects of the affordability crisis on the elections we've had in the last couple of weeks. New Jersey, Virginia, the affordability issue was big. We saw constituencies switch back to Democrats because they do not see the administration taking action on that campaign promise, which was prices. The administration is all over the place, but the key issue that gave them back the White House, that gave them back the whole Capitol building, they're not dealing with it. So, and then you also have the special election in Tennessee. Yes, Republicans won, but the margin was reduced to something like a battleground district. So I think the red flags are there for the Republicans if this is not extended. They have key midterms next year. The president does not want to be a lame duck president starting November 2026, losing both House and the Senate, because the affordability crisis is real, and healthcare is the tipping point of this crisis. So if, again, we need to fix healthcare issue long term. That I agree with.
Yeah,
but if we're not extended, the Republicans are going to pay the price politically next November.
Yeah, and that is a key question. The reality is that there is affordability is front and center, and healthcare is one of those key areas, right? People talk about housing or rent, but for sure, healthcare is one of those as well. What Democrats are saying is that they believe the solution for them is the Obamacare subsidies. That's not what I'm hearing from Republicans. From your point of view, Frank, what is the best path forward when it comes to this dilemma?
Well, since I can remember, healthcare has always been a critical issue in the United States. Now, the question is, why was President Trump elected? I just want to get ourselves back to that. Because he promised law and order. Basically, what we had in the Biden era was disorder, problems, mass, bad handling of immigration, bad handling of the economy, and go on from there, the other subjects. The thing is, we're talking about subsidies that, like we said, COVID era subsidies. COVID was almost 6 years ago. It ended, let's say, in the end of 2020, a little bit of 2021. By the end of 2021, it was over. And we're still talking about these subsidies. You know what my problem is with this? And I agree with our friend here on one topic of what he said. This needs to be fixed. There's some solution that has to be put on the table that both sides agree on. What I don't agree on is that it's always the same speech when it comes to renewing stuff, primarily when it comes to spending. It always comes down to it when the deadline is almost coming up, there's always going to be an excuse. Every single time, there's going to be an excuse. Prices are high. Gas prices are high. Minimum wage has a problem. Housing crisis. There's always going to be an excuse when the deadline comes up on something like this to, no, we have to extend it because of this, because of that, because of this subject. There's always going to be one excuse on why extending this. And this is, the U.S. has dealt with a lot of debt problems with similar programs like this in its history. I think there needs to be a solution, but it's not. It doesn't go through this extension package. We've seen problems in this program specifically. We've seen people, thousands, if not millions of people registering by mistake in this program. We've seen how wealthy people have access to this program that they shouldn't have access to this program. Are we really controlling what is going on with the subsidies? Is it really, in the end, giving the American people that really need it that extra balance to, all the debt they have, all the obligations they have to make it less? Or is it putting in more money in the pockets of insurers and maybe having a program that is not having the right oversight and has people that don't have to be there, registering there, and making people that don't need it having it? So, like I said, we can talk about semantics, we can talk about details of economics, but in the end, and I know from my Democratic colleagues, it's always the same thing. When it comes to the deadline on a subject that has to be spending, there's always going to be a good excuse.
Marco, to that point, I mean, it's something that Republicans have said, right? That they've said, like, well, they're recognizing that there needs to be a fix, right? And let's acknowledge that Republicans, I think, haven't done necessarily a good job of laying out what their full solution would be, right? I mean, I remember in the day when they were trying to fully repeal The line was repeal and replace Obamacare. The problem is they tried the repealing, but they didn't have the replacing. It's been an issue, is my point, for over, I would say 10, 12 years at this point. But the criticism that comes in is that Obamacare was supposed to be this big solution to our healthcare problems, but here we are having to put either more money into it or there is a lot of fraud into it. Do you think, in your opinion, do you think Democrats are open to some of the Republican solutions? One of the solutions being healthcare savings accounts. What they're saying is, instead of sending this money, these subsidies that they go to insurers, they should be to health savings accounts that go directly to people. The main question here, Marco, is do you think Democrats are open to some solutions that maybe chip away from Obamacare and are open to some of the solutions that Republicans are putting forth?
No, I think first let's go back to what Obamacare was. The main objective of Obamacare was to expand access to healthcare, and it's been really successful. 20 million people since it was enacted have gained access that would have been insured. So the goal in that sense has been met. We still have an affordability issue. America still is a country that has a healthcare system significantly more expensive than any other developed country in the world. There are issues to be solved. I think, yes, there will be Democrats that will be open to fixing that particular issue. But the moment is key. The moment is key, again, because of the affordability crisis we have. And that's why we have, in a sense, the shutdown. It was the Democrats saying, this issue needs to be at least solved now in terms of affordability, and then we sit down and fix the overall system. I don't think any rational, moderate Democrat will pass the opportunity to try to fix, again, the biggest issue in affordability this country has, which is healthcare. So, but is the moment. I think the moment is key because we have people suffering. They're not Republicans, not American people that cannot afford groceries, rent is too high, and then you're gonna, because you don't like the system how it works now and you have certain reservations on it, you want to put them through 1-2 years of significant higher prices. I think that is not the way to go. I think the way to go is let's help people now, at least maybe 1-2 years. I mean, there's the various options to solve this issue in the medium term, but let's not put more pressure on our American families on pricing on January 1st and extending it. And I want to compare one thing is like, yes, we need to find issues for that. And Franklin was saying, yes, they are. There's always a reason to extend it, but I think right now Republicans are on the line because people have seen them extend tax cuts to the companies, to corporations, to the more well-off with the big beautiful bill, but the average Joe cannot get that help. I think that's the thing that people will see next year. So again, I think Democrats will be open to a solution, but is putting people through a year of higher healthcare costs, which are already high, is not the solution for this now.
Marco, I want to ask you before turning to Frank real quick. I mean, el otro lado de la moneda, the other side of the coin is that this is probably going to be the topic that Democrats essentially run on, in my opinion. I mean, the shutdown, I mean, there was vast reporting that Schumer felt the pressure from the left. They felt that they hadn't fought on this issue, and they thought they had good messaging with the Obamacare subsidies, and to their credit, they did rise the topic to front and center. They are getting a vote. I mean, do you see, is this going to be the topic that Democrats run on next year in the midterms?
Again, this is a question for Republicans because they're the ones that control at least the issue of the subsidies and in the healthcare issue. It's in their hands of extending them or not. And then that vote will be key. I think the affordability issue is way bigger than just healthcare. Obviously, we still have the economy not doing that well. We still have housing being a key issue across the country. Jobs opportunities are not being created. The whole issue of the economy is still going to be key, but it's in the hands of Republicans of keeping the subsidies for healthcare, the credits for healthcare alive up until the midterms, and giving the Democrats a fighting argument and a important flag to run on for the next election. Again, Republicans choose if they save the American people from higher costs, or they give Democrats a a winning argument for the next administration because it's been proven. Look at the elections that we have this year. Affordability is going to be an issue, but again, Republicans are the ones going to choose if they give that
Yeah.
flag to Democrats or not.
Yeah, affordable is going to be front and center, and they're going to be different tiers. To that point, Frank, again, Marco did mention the election in Tennessee where Republicans did win, but it was it was a much smaller margin than they typically win. How important do you think is healthcare going to be ahead of the election next year? Affordability in general, but healthcare specifically.
Look, one thing I always say, my Democratic colleagues see things as in the eyes of the lens of politics and elections. We see it in the Republican friends as a thing of state, of country, not only of elections, calculation, if this is going to benefit us in the next general election or the midterms, is this going to be favorable or unfavorable? The thing is, Democrats should think about higher costs when they are in government. Do we not remember that we had the 40-year high inflation with Biden? One of the biggest housing crises on acquiring a house of the average Joe after the 2008 crisis was in the Biden era. Do we forget that the U.S. has one of the biggest immigration crises during the Biden-Harris era, 2 million to 3 million people a year hitting the southern border? And let's not add to that what Doge in the beginning of this government of Trump era, second term, cut and slashed all that stupid spending that was government was doing. And let's not say what they found out in this famous foreign aid USAID stuff that Marco Rubio and his team found out was wasteful spending. Why do you have to spend millions of dollars on a Sesame Street show in Iraq? Why do you need to fund LGBTQ trans parades in Colombia? I mean, if you add up to that, it's hundreds of millions of dollars spent in stupid things that could have been reoriented to the healthcare system. So Democrats have this amnesia of how and where to spend. And this is one of them, definitely. I think what we need to have is a serious discussion on the topic. Republicans, I think, has always been pragmatic on this. What benefits the people, but also really taking care of the economy, because the American people cannot rely on a government that keeps spending and spending and spending. In the end, it's going to have what we had in the Biden-Harris administration: higher inflation, higher cost, and that this Trump administration has to deal with it. Basically, we need people to have the option to choose their own healthcare provider, not the government be in the middle of everything, not one big size package of everyone government control type of healthcare. And again, there's always going to be an excuse. A year from now, let's say it gets extended. A year from now, 2 years ago now, 3 years from now, you think the Democrats will really sit down and say, "Oh no, yeah, we don't need it anymore. It's over. We can eliminate it." It's not going to happen. We know that. There's going to be an excuse. There's going to be, "No, we have this now. We have this now." There's got to be a permanent solution, and definitely extending this and spending more, it's not going to be the one. So yes, Republicans have a lot to do with a lot of homework on healthcare.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
go ahead, finish your point.
And
sorry.
Democrats really need to come to the middle ground and say, okay, this has to have a limit. We compromise on a limit, not to just arrive again to the same debate and having the same tug of war of we need to save the economy, have healthcare, or we just want to spend like crazy and put this as a political tactic to have a midterm or a general election advantage. Just that immigration. I really think some Democrats are good people that really care about immigrants, and they think their way of solving immigration is the best one. I don't think so. I come from a big immigration country, and we don't want people to leave. First of all, it's a dangerous path. You cannot incentivize people to do that dangerous path to die, to be to be trafficked, human trafficked, organ trafficked, rapes, children. I'm not talking about only adults. Murder. And when you give out the message here, like Democrats want to do on those key issues, that this is an open border country, that's what you're going to get, and that's what you're going to incentivize. And so sometimes I think it's a political tactic to get more people to vote for them. I just really hope common sense comes to the ground, and I think that's where the Republicans have that responsibility. And it is true. I agree with my friend. We are in control of everything, and we need to work on it. And remember, usually the parties that go into full power, right? They get both houses of Congress. They get the executive and the presidency. Usually in the midterms, usually one of the houses, one of the two chambers flips, either house or the Senate, and maybe that's the pathway that's going to happen in next year.
Yeah, Frank, you brought a lot of points there in different topics, but I do want to center a little bit. I'll give a little bit of my opinion when it comes to this topic. I do believe that it's something you both highlighted, is that the reason why this continues to be kind of like a thorn in the shoe of Republicans is because they haven't been offering up what their plan is. I emphasized earlier, they had the whole time that line of repeal and replace, but they never had the replace. They've always talked about how Obamacare doesn't work, and they've had their reasons and their thinking, but they've never been able to bring those solutions to the table. I think if they want to lead and they want to show folks not that they're just not complaining about a bad system, they're going to have to bring solutions. They're going to have to talk about health savings accounts. They're going to have to talk about telemedicine. They're going to have to talk about certificate of need, which is it's more of a state issue, but it's something that they could incentivize states to take action there's a without a doubt there is something wrong with our healthcare system. There are a lot of people frustrated, and if you're in the majority, if you're in power, you have to be solutions based. So I do think it's a topic that is not going to go away. Will be, I think, talked about through to 2026. But I do want to go to our next topic when we're talking about birthright citizenship. At the beginning of the year was one of the executive orders that President Donald Trump put forth, where they came and retaron, they challenged the 14th Amendment, which gives that right of citizenship to anyone born in the United States. They're holding on to a key phrase within the 14th Amendment, saying that this phrase, which I believe is, it's escaping me, I had it in my notes, but basically, they're holding on to this phrase that they're saying if it's not within the jurisdiction, and they're saying folks who are here undocumented or came illegally do not fall within that jurisdiction. The Supreme Court this week announced that they will be taking up the case next year. Interesting enough, it's going to be in June. They're going to be hearing arguments in June, which I think will bring this topic again even more in the forefront in the summer ahead of the elections. Marco, I do want to start with you. Give us the full picture. Do you think, just your opinion, do you think that this is something that the Trump administration will be able to get their way? And then two, what do you think are the political ramifications of this topic?
Oh, first, I think it's going to be very difficult for them to get a positive response from the Supreme Court. Second, the law is there. There's an amendment. The only way of changing this is through Congress and then through state legislatures. It's very difficult politically to make these changes in the Constitution. So I think at the end of the day, what Trump is doing, this is one of his, I would call, red meat proposals that is just to satisfy his most ardent anti-immigrant base that sees that the birthright citizenship is being taken advantage of by immigrants, by people that are here illegally. Again, it's to satisfy this base, to show them that they're doing something towards those sentiments. I think the U.S. is not the only country that has birthright citizenship. This is normal, especially in this side of the world where we were countries that gained their independence and in some sense needed immigrants throughout their history. It's a key factor. It's a key semblance of what America is, because we again are a nation of immigrants. There is no bloodline descendants, no families that's been here for thousands of years. This is, I think, an essence of our country. So first, it's going to be very difficult. Two, I think more for Trump, it's more a key issue for the Supreme Court. I think the average American knows that this is a right that is inside our Constitution, that is respected, that is a key feature of our country. And if they, as they've done in other cases, given the president a win, it will bring a bigger response from the public on against the Supreme Court that they already feel it's been politicized. It already feels that it's been taken over by the executive. That instead of being a check on the White House, it's becoming an enabler. So I think it's key for the Supreme Court to do what is legally right, what's in our Constitution, to make it clear that this is, if it is to be done, it is not through an executive order, it's through Congress. And again, the Republican Party, if that's their wish, they're welcome to do it. But I think there's a lot of immigrant communities that see the Republican Party their home, but if they see this, I think, assault on a key right that is part of the American dream for a lot of people that come here, is not going to play out well for them. So I think it's key for the Supreme Court. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's the response is going to be, if you want to take away this right, the Congress is the way to go. The state legislature is the way to go. And repercussions politically, I don't think it's gonna be significant. The only people that will be, obviously, people will celebrate that the law is respected, but I think the Republican base would not react negatively if this doesn't receive a positive response from the Supreme Court.
Yeah. I want to go to Frank on this topic, and Frank, I want to ask you more on the political side. I do think on the topic of just immigration in general, this year has been interesting. There is no doubt that, during the campaign, immigration was talked about. I think the border was maybe front and center during that time, and the border, we were not hearing of record high numbers. If anything, we're hearing of record high numbers of people not coming in, right? So in general, I think folks would recognize that the border is secure. The other part was deportations. And this year, on the topic of deportations, I do think Republicans and the president, from folks who are either, who are Hispanic and are more sympathetic to the issue, have been a little bit more critical of the president, because they were very much on board on the mass deportations of criminals. But we are seeing reports and we are seeing the stories that it looks like they're really trying to just draw numbers. And that just means the community in general. The White House itself says that their definition of criminal is just anyone who is here unlawfully. Now, that I just set that as sort of the stage, but the main topic being here, birthright citizenship. Do you think the calculations of this administration to bring that issue was a little bit too accelerated? It's being challenged in the courts. It's being said that maybe it won't pass. Again, it's muddying the waters already on a difficult issue. Should this be something that maybe the White House kind of lets go of the pedal of? Like, they're going to allow the Supreme Court to hear it, but if it doesn't go through, just leave it alone. If the Supreme Court, let's say, shuts it down, should the White House just leave it alone and let it be at that point?
Look, President Trump is a person that delivers. He ran on that. His first term was delivering, and he ran his second term on, again, delivering. He was elected in all 7 swing states because of certain issues. And obviously, one of those issues was immigration. You had a crisis at the border with the Biden-Harris administration, 2-3 million people hitting that border. The thing is, when we think about immigration, we only look at the humanitarian side, which is good. It is an optic that you have to look at. But what about the states that have to deal with this huge crisis in their states, in their own backyard, in their own housing problems, economic problems? Because it's like, the best example that I can give is that, imagine you have a house. Someone knocks in and says, "Hey, can I stay at your house maybe a week because I don't have a home?" You say yes, it's all right, no problem. That's one person. You have a 2-bedroom, maybe flat, or you have a 2-bedroom house. Perfect, there's one person. But then 3 people come in and ask for the same thing. And then 5 people come in. And then 10 people come in. And then 20 people come in. You won't be able to have, even if you want to, your house will be a mess, wouldn't it be? Even if you said yes to the 20 people that came after that first person, what's the problem with the water crisis that you're going to have in your house? Space crisis. Now, put that in the context of a nationwide problem. That means higher security cost, higher problems in probably housing, because you're going to have a lot of people without a house. How are you going to deal with all those people that don't have a house? How are you going to deal with healthcare crisis? Because those people will, in some point, need healthcare, even more if they have children that you have to take care of. So it is good to look at from a humanitarian side. And from a humanitarian side, immigration is an issue that if you incentivize that, you're basically evil. because you're just thinking when they're here, but you don't know the path some people did to come to this country. A dangerous path, like I said before, and some people don't make it. And if you have that incentive of, oh, you can come here, you can be a citizen, or you can come here and have children and be a citizen, automatically your children, and they can pick up you. Look, immigration in the States has changed over the years. It's not the same as it was 150 years ago. It's not the same as it was in the 1960s. And it's definitely not the same as the one you had in 2010. And it's not the same now. It's different. It's changed over the years. I think President Trump, going back to your question, is a president that delivers. And he delivered on this issue. And he's trying to do it early stages on his administration because he knows he only has 4 years. This is one of the things he wants to send out a message of, we cannot deal with this immigration crisis anymore than just be tough on it. And it has worked. We had one of the lowest people crossing the border in history of the United States. Record low people going to the southern border and crossing it. That's what people in Texas, some people in Florida, and some people in border states were asking for, because there was a crisis. Even if you have empathy for these people, which everybody, I think we genuinely do, it generates other problems. It generates also some things that sometimes the states cannot take care of, because it means more spending. So in the end, when you look at immigration, you have to look at it from different angles and perspective. And one of this, that it is a dangerous path. You're calling them probably on their death to do that dangerous trajectory. And the third and biggest thing is you have problems already in those states, border cross states, and you're adding more to the toll of that problem. So in the end, when it comes down to birthright citizenship, I agree. It will be very hard to overturn it. It will be very hard to change it or amend it. I think it's going to stay as it is. But it goes to show that President Trump, when he talks about an issue, he will deliver. And since you have 2-3 million people in Biden-Harris administration coming across the border, he said, there's this package of things that I'm planning to do. Secure the border, more funding for Border Patrol, and immigration reforms. And this is part of it. So people cannot be surprised on the action of President Trump, because he basically said and outlined during the campaign what he was going to do. Is it going to happen? I don't know if this particular reform will happen, because it has a lot of hurdles to go through. But you cannot say he's not delivering on what he campaigned on. And I think immigration will be a key issue still. And those states and those people that voted on this issue, I think they are very pleased on what President Trump's actions have been, especially on securing the border and securing and not people crossing illegally the United States. And I've seen how people, the legal way, have been able to still have their citizenship, their residency, working visas extended to some countries. And I think that is the best pathway. Obviously, not everybody has the same opportunities, and I understand that. I agree with that. But an out-of-control border only hurts everyone. It doesn't hurt just one side. It hurts everyone.
I think there are a lot of Republicans who are hopeful and this is some, not all, but there are some Republicans who are hopeful that this was a tactic from the president to try to stop that incentive for people coming over, or two, to say that he's delivering on a promise, because these people who are hopeful that it was a tactic, I think, are hopeful that it actually doesn't go through, that it's been something that it's been part of the Constitution for a long time. To Marco's point, is something that typically any kind of amendment to the Constitution does have to go through Congress or through the states. It's a long process, and it's not an easy one to do. Before moving on to our next topic, we're going to be looking at the elections in Honduras and the impact of the tweet from Trump. I do want to thank Marco Frietti for joining us for these first two segments. Marco, it's always a pleasure having you on the show.
Wally, thanks for having me. Frank, pleasure meeting you. Hope to be
Thank
back
you,
soon.
Marco. Now we're going to turn over to the topic of the elections in Honduras. The elections were last Sunday, but we don't have the results yet. It's been a neck-to-neck election. Again, this comes on the heels of the Trump tweet. They gave the endorsement to Tito Osfura, who is currently leading the National Party, which he's a part of, is saying that that lead will stay consistent and that they do see him getting across the finish line with the win. Frank, you're embedded in Honduran politics. You know, like the back of your hand. You've been an advisor to the Tito
The
Osfura,
National
again, who's
Party.
the candidate on the National Party, El Partido Nacionalista. I want to hear from you. Again, the results aren't in yet, but you guys feel confident that he's going to win. Let's say Tito Osfura makes it across the finish line. He is president. He received that endorsement from Trump. What do you see are the key issues that he would work on in relation to the United States?
Well, I think first of all, the President Trump backed the right candidate, the conservative candidate, the candidate of values, of family values, Christian values, of the shared values with the United States, basically. And I know Tito Fuda, he was 8 years, he was a great mayor. Everybody agrees in the country, even if they hate the National Party, they love what Tito Fuda did in the capital as mayor for 8 years. He was one of the most popular mayors in the country for a long time. And he was the right candidate. In the end, it was a neck and neck fight against the Liberal Party candidate, who was vice president of the current Socialist Party. The Socialist Party only got 20% of the vote. They were ousted by the people. We had a long year and a half tug of war as a whole opposition against the Socialists, because they were trying to rig elections. They had all the sayings of trying to rig elections, just as in Venezuela, Nicaragua, obviously other countries, because those are their alliances. We were able to manage to get through that, to survive that rigged election that they want to do. Now, the process was over in Sunday. They're still counting votes. There have been some problems with the system. The Liberal Party candidate has gone again in somewhat of an alliance with the Socialists again, to try to see if they can grab something from the counting process that we have right now. But in the end, democracy has prevailed, and Tito Fuda will probably be president soon. He will be declared. Also, the capital of Tegucigalpa goes back. It was under socialist regime reign. It's going to go back to the National Party again, and the Congress is going to have a majority of opposition, but basically a majority from the National Party also. So it's going to be a lot of work in the 4 years. Usually after socialist government, if a right-wing government picks it up, it has to be law and order. It has to be order in the finances, specifically the finances, because the budget and everything, socialists aren't good at handling the economy, never. So it's going to be a lot of fixing that. It's going to be a lot of putting order into economic stuff, social things. But also the relationship with the U.S., I think, is going to be great. I mean, if I haven't seen in a long time a sitting U.S. president endorse a candidate during election cycles. It has only happened very rarely in the U.S. history. And with Trump, it has happened before, but also very rarely. So to have it happen for the candidate of the National Party, National Fuda, just before the election, it obviously has to do a lot with putting him over the top, because Honduras depends a lot of U.S. U.S. on Honduras relationship, basically on commerce, immigration, very huge issue for us. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great relationship. He said it in his tweet. I'm not quoting just myself or the National Party. It's basically President Trump tweeting out and saying on his X and on his Truth Social that he's going to have a great relationship with Honduras if Tito Fuda wins. And that it's going to be a bright day for Honduras. It's going to be a good thing to talk about every issue. Every issue will be on the table, negotiable, with the president has put support for this candidate. So I think it's a positive for the country. The country wins with this. And I think that's going to help a lot, especially on immigration and economy.
Yeah, from the U.S. perspective, Trump was looking at the landscape and seeing how the alliances with Venezuela, with Cuba, that the current president, Somara, has taken, the direction that Honduras hasn't been with. Honduras has been a partner, like you mentioned, in trade, and I would say in other key areas in the past. But again, with this new, or the current president really took the country to the left on her policies. I think it's very positive to see that rejection of her party in this election, and the rise of that conservative candidate. Let's talk about the first 100-day agenda. If Tito Fuda again does become president, what do those first 100 days look like? What are the key topics? Everything from economy, corruption, immigration, infrastructure, healthcare. Where do you think the focus will be in those first
So
100 days?
since he knows he's going to win, because he has the votes, he has the counting of the party has its own counting mechanism system. He's already working. He's already working on a transition plan. He's already envisioning what he's going to do. I think one of the main key issues. He's a builder. The guy is a builder. He's a businessman on construction. A very very successful businessman. He was a very successful mayor, and I think he's going to take that topic and optics of having a great infrastructure from a local side to the national level. I think so. Basically, he's going to better all the infrastructure in the country. He's going to have a vision of, if you have good infrastructure, you give more investment. Because obviously investment comes if you see the best infrastructure you can see. And if that investment is going to be managed in the country that has that infrastructure to manage it. I think that's one of his main priorities, is to have great infrastructure along every country. And I'm not just talking roads or bridges. I'm also talking logistics. I'm also talking on ports. I'm also talking on airports. So I think that's one of his main goals, is better the infrastructure of the general country, and at the same time attract private sector and private investment, foreign and local also, because investment has stopped in Honduras. A lot of and big investors that were in Honduras, because of this current socialist government, put their money elsewhere, because they were not seeing the government friendly to the private sector. So their investment went to El Salvador, probably. That you have Bukele there that's doing this attraction of investment into El Salvador and to other countries. But this is going to have to change quickly. And I think the markets have reacted positively that Nastrias Fura will probably win the election, that the National Party, a party that's known for law and order party, will go back to power. So I think that's one of the three key issues will be better infrastructure, attracting investment for create more employment, for more jobs to be created in the country. And the third issue obviously will be a combination of some sort of immigration that we have to deal with, right? With the United States, basically. But like I said, we have the door open with President Trump to negotiate all of this. You got right now, Honduras has a disadvantage within the region that we have a 10% tariff that President Trump imposed on a lot of countries. Depending on the country, depending on the tariff, but we have that 10%. But he suspended that for Guatemala and El Salvador. So we have a disadvantage right now as a country. If we can negotiate based on what he said on that tweet with President Trump, that he takes away that 10% tariff, we're going to be competitive again with not only our main competitors and also neighbors, Guatemala and El Salvador. We're going to be better off than other countries that still have the tariffs. Like Mexico, for example, that President Trump just imposed a 5% tariff on specific subjects. So right now, it is the most important part, the transition period. We're trying to, the Electoral Commission to finalize the tally. That's our message. We're not declaring irresponsibly victory. We know we're going to win, but we are very respectful as a party of the Electoral Commission, process, and to say, yes, Tito Fura won, and National Party won. Let's do this transition. It's not going to be easy because the socialists don't want to do it. They just presented a draft to their puppets in some institution of the law in Honduras that they want to annul the election. They want to cancel the election. Just a typical manual of the socialists everywhere in Latin America. But it's not going to happen. People voted. People went massively to vote. More than 60% of the country went to vote. And they rejected them so bad that they didn't even want their home birthplaces. Not even Xiomara's home birthplace. She didn't win that. And not even the candidate of the socialists, she didn't win her home place either. So the rejection was full. National Party is a party law and order, like I said, and it's going to be those three main issues. Also, like a transcendent issue that's going to be transcending all of it is transparency. We need to work a lot on transparency, basically in Latin America, but in Honduras, it is a very important topic. And I think the best guy to do it is Tito Fura.
I want to ask you on international affairs beyond the United States. So one thing I'll note is that you actually just won. You were also part of the election as, in Honduras, they call it a diputado suplente.
Deputy congressman.
Which is, essentially deputy congressman. So congratulations on that. But you're also, there has been talks that you could possibly be tapped to play a role within this possible new administration, new government on the international affairs side. From your perspective, what are the issues that need to be tackled early on? This current government again, aligned more with places like Venezuela, aligned more with places previously with Bolivia, who also had previously a socialist government, with Cuba. What are the things that you believe need to be reversed, and what's the path forward, Honduras, in this space?
Well, if any way I can serve my country, especially on what I think is one of my special and expertise is in the foreign affairs, it'll be an honor of my life. But what I can say, what I can advise to the next president who's going to come in, which is going to be Tito Fuda, is that we need to have that big, and he talked about it during the campaign. Our big alliances will be, our triangle of alliances will be obviously the U.S., Israel, and Taiwan. Why Taiwan? Because we were one of the few countries until 2022 that had an official diplomatic channel with China, Taiwan, Republic of China, Taiwan. But this socialist government switched from Taiwan to the People's Republic of China. So what happened? We haven't seen any benefits from that change. Communist China has not helped us at all in anything. And with what Taiwan, we had a lot of deals, especially on the agriculture sector, on exporting goods, coffee, shrimp. We had one of the best relationships on that front. We had companies that were run solely on those contracts in the country of Honduras, solely on those contracts with Taiwan because they were so good that they were thriving. But then this government came, switched to Communist China, and we have not seen any single benefit from this relationship. And Tito Fuda said this needs to change. So we're going to revise that relationship with the Communist China, and we're going to raise the possibility of coming back with Taiwan as a recognized diplomatic channel. We're going to definitely have a close relationship with Israel and a close relationship with the United States, as we've seen in the tweets. So my advice would be, let's tackle those three countries that are very important for us. And also don't leave out all the alliances right now the current administration of the U.S. has. El Salvador, Ecuador, Argentina, Paraguay. Those are very important countries for us that are, we call them like a freedom alliance that we have right now in the continent. And yes, we're going to have conversations with countries that ideologically don't fit, probably with the ideology of President Tito Fuda in the future. But I think we need to concentrate on what makes our country better. You know, President Trump runs what Make America Great Again. We can run on Make Honduras Great Again. And to do that, we need to do it with our best allies, with the people that we agree on, basically on commerce and social issues. And I think that will be the best path forward. But also speak to Europe, for example. We need to speak to Europe. Why we need to speak to Europe? First of all, we have a lot of people that migrate to Europe, and we need to take care of our migrants over there. But also, if Europe wants to have deals with Latin America, especially countries like ours in Central America, that they do import a lot of our stuff to their countries, there needs to stop over regulation. They're killing any commercial deals just because they want to do Green Deal stuff. You know, it has to have this kind of fertilizer. It has to have this kind of green stuff. It has to have this social issue tackled. I saw one time that there was if the EU wanted to do a commercial deal with Honduras on some issue in agriculture, but they say that the people in Honduras, the farmers, needed to be trained on LGBTQ issues. I mean, in what rational mind does that make sense? Or what rational mind does that fit, right? So we need to talk tough also. We're not going to be just imposed agendas, especially woke agendas. This is not going to happen. We're anti-woke. The National Party is a party. And it's not just the party, it's the country. It's a Christian country. And people, powers around it, need to respect that. And I think that's why President Trump supported us, because he sees the values fit. And I think what we want is President Trump wants to make his country great. I want to make my country great. And Tito Fuda also wants to make Honduras great. He's already working, and I think those will be the issues that he's going to tackle.
Yeah, I think we're actually waiting to see those results, and then to see the inauguration, and then a new administration coming in to deliver on that. I want to thank Frank Alley for being on the show again here on The Game, and our audience for tuning in again. This has been The Game, the show where we go play by play, analyzing the game of politics.